Chapter 816, Continue Living. After Tang Ning's press conference, Hairui released a PR statement to emphasize that Zhu Zhen's death had nothing to do with Tang Ning. As for how the public decided to take it, it was of no concern to Tang Ning. So, those that previously had one of two expectations of Tang Ning, found that her response was both expected and unexpected. Tang Ning preferred to give up on her career than to give up on her innocence. She did not use her usual methods. She did not admit defeat nor did she bow down. She especially didn't cry just to protect her career. How was one to explain the current situation? Tang Ning's response not only made the media appear like a bunch of clowns, it made everyone that was angered by the incident feel especially silly. Best Actress tries her best to clarify the truth, claims she had nothing to do with Zhu Zhen's death. Tang Ning emphasizes her standpoint towards Zhu Zhen's death, chooses innocence over career. Afterwards, the public began to voice their opinions regarding the matter. How could she say that it has nothing to do with her? Isn't she just relying on the fact that there is no evidence? Isn't she being too proud? Zhu Zhen's already dead. Can't she just give an apology so the dead can rest in peace? No wonder she's the best actress. She even acts in her daily life. Since she doesn't want her career, then she should stick to her decision. If she announces that she is acting again, she would be slapping herself in the face. Yes, this was roughly the situation. The public were completely filled with hate towards Tang Ning. They couldn't even tell if it was due to their pity for Zhu Zhen or due to the fact that Tang Ning didn't create an interesting enough story for them. Soon, the police uncovered Zhu Zhen's history of mental illness. Zhu Zhen's agency had been keeping it under wraps. They obviously wanted to continue milking her for publicity. Meanwhile, Tang Ning had returned to the set of Survivor. Tang Ning, to see you suffer so much makes me. In private, the director felt guilty towards Tang Ning. Perhaps I'm too afraid of being destroyed, so I don't have the courage to say a few words for you. More importantly, I know that if I was to step out at this time, I will simply add to the body count and be of no help. Rather than taking that risk, I thought it would be better for me to focus on directing this film and wait for your return. I have faith that you will eventually tell everyone that their conclusion is wrong. The director wasn't good nor bad, he was just an average person. He didn't have the courage to speak up for Tang Ning, but at least, he didn't tread on her while she was down. He even kept hold of Survivor. Following on, I would like to ask the director to be extra strict. Tang Ning had nothing to say. After all, with her current status, if she was to change directors, the new director would definitely not be as polite. Don't worry, things will be the same as before. The director nodded in certainty. There wasn't much left to film. While Tang Ning spent every day buried in filming, scolding from the public did not cease. To protect Tang Ning from being hassled by reporters, Mo Ting kept Tang Ning's whereabouts a complete secret. By this time, the police had compiled all the information regarding Zhu Zhen's medical history. Even if the public refused to believe anything they said, at least this piece of information would reduce the misunderstanding towards Tang Ning. Soon, a follow-up statement was released on the official police force website. As this wasn't considered breaking the law, all the police could do was complain that Zhu Zhen's agency was acting unethically. After all, Tang Ning had already suffered much more than they did. After the low-key investigation held by the police and our attempt to secure evidence, we finally got a hold of Zhu Zhen's medical records. 3 years ago, Zhu Zhen was diagnosed with a mild case of depression. Afterwards, her condition worsened and it developed into bipolar 2 years ago. But, she continued to work and didn't accept any proper treatment. Zhu Zhen's agency deliberately kept Zhu Zhen's condition a secret and tried to get rid of all her medical reports after her suicide. God knows what's right and wrong and the truth will prevail. We hope that everyone open their eyes and not hurt themselves and others based on their speculation. Afterwards, underneath the statement, someone questioned the public, at this point, do you still believe that Tang Ning killed Zhu Zhen? Not long after that, someone stepped out to reveal that Zhu Zhen was not a moral person. Every film she filmed, she would sleep with one person. As long as she received benefits, she was willing to do anything. It was no surprise that Tang Ning ended up calling the editor of Global Style and telling them not to use Zhu Zhen. Even if the agency should take responsibility, Tang Ning is still the person that lit the fuse. This time, people began to argue against comments like this. The person that wrote this must not have encountered a person with bipolar before. Even if no one provokes them, they could commit suicide at any time. Perhaps, Tangning really had nothing to do with this incident. Regardless of whether she is involved or not, Beijing no longer has a place for her. Entertainment agencies have always been bloodsuckers. This is nothing out of the ordinary. The truth revealed by the police did not help Tangning gain much understanding. But, Tangning did not need it anyway. At this moment, she was simply focused on filming the last part of A Survivor. She had no time to even take notice of what was happening online. Of course, with this spare time, Lin Keon had already registered their agency and made proper preparations. Long Ji was ready to display her skills and had already taken note of their first artist as per Tangning's instructions. This 19-year-old artist was called Lo Woxing and he was currently a member of a small boy group called SMY. Due to his good looks, the other members singled him out. On top of that, he was cast aside and ignored by his agency because he refused to partake in underhanded dealings. This young man had already won many singing awards before his debut. Who would have thought, after entering the entertainment industry, he would end up like this? The entertainment industry had never been fair to good people. 2 months later, A Survivor finally completed filming. Although this film was not supposed to be released, the director told Tangning as she left, "I've bought the rights to the film, so I have the right to release it. However, we don't have much of a backing. But don't worry, I will definitely make all the doubters of this film feel regret." Tangning did not expect too much. She simply felt that completing a great character was already enough for her to live with no regrets. Following on, she still had many challenges. Those that looked down on her and doubted her, still had a long way to go. She wasn't going to fall so easily. She was going to find another way to continue living and make these people spew in anger. Chapter 817, A Surprise Should Be Left to the End. Superstar Media. This was the agency formed by Tangning, Long Ji and Lin Keon. It was a small studio that operated separately to Hyrule. But, to allow this agency to exist, Tangning had previously agreed to sign a contract with Hyrule. She agreed that if they managed to create a successful artist, they would pass that artist on to Hyrule. In other words, she was practically like a talent scout or a headhunter. Apart from this, Hyrule agreed not to interfere with the artist's activities, but the artist had to take Hyrule's interests into consideration. Lastly, Hyrule was only giving Tangning 1 year. If she didn't make any progress in 1 year, the contract they signed would be automatically void and the investment that the three women made would simply be their own personal loss. Hyrule would not be held accountable for it. The contract was extremely strict because Moting had expectations for his woman. He believed that there was nothing that she couldn't do. You need to prepare yourself. It is normal for you not to sign any artists in the initial stages, let alone secure any resources. Plus, you are not allowed to operate using Hyrule's name. I'm well aware of that, Tangning replied. If I hadn't prepared myself, I wouldn't have made this request to you. After speaking, Tangning moved in close to Moting and placed a kiss on his neck. This symbolized the understanding between the couple and showed Tangning's love of being close to Moting. If Moting made things too easy for her, she would feel that there was no challenge. So, the current situation was just right. At first, she did not personally get involved with the agency. She left everything with Lin Keon and Long Ji to handle. After all, a surprise should be left to the end. Plus, her relationship with Moting from now on was practically like allies on a battlefield. Not only would she be protected by him, she could now share some of his burden. Most importantly, now that she had moved behind the scenes, she would now have more time for Moting and the kids. In that case, Moting grabbed Tangning's chin and said in a deep and charming voice, "I am going to focus on watching your show. From now on, if you have anything to ask of me, you will need to pay." For example, Moting did not say anything else, he simply pointed towards the bed with his chin. The couple understood each other and Tangning let out a laugh. Was Moting applying his black-bellied methods on her? Lo Woxing was originally the main vocal of his group, but now, he was forced to return home to watch over his father's store and live a laborious life simply waiting until he reached a certain age, got married and accepted his fate. Long Ji did a thorough investigation on Luo Sheng's current situation and discovered that he still had a 2-year contract with his management agency. In other words, he wouldn't be allowed to do anything for 2 years. Worst of all, to prevent him from ever joining another agency, by the time his 2 years was up, the agency would have completely destroyed his reputation. This was a common method used by agencies. It was practically like a fight for favoritism amongst an emperor's royal harem. On the day that Lin Qian and Long Ji went to look for Luo Sheng, he was in the market buying vegetable for his mother. The young rascal was an honest, hard-working person. Wearing sunglasses, Long Ji approached Luo Sheng and handed him a business card. If you want to make a comeback, come to Yijing Bar at 3 p.m. this afternoon. Luo Sheng received the card confusedly. All he saw on the card in big letters was the name Superstar Media. Underneath the name, written in golden letters, was a line of English text: if you want to destroy your previous enemies. Luo Sheng had never heard of this agency before. Were they perhaps a scam? Just as he was about to throw the business card away, his mother stopped him. Son, what are you doing? Mom, this is a scam. How is it a scam? My son is talented. Doesn't he deserve to be scouted? I'll come with you this afternoon. If these people turn out to be scammers, I'll send them to their death. Luo Sheng originally planned to ignore the offer, but he didn't want his mother to be disappointed, so he ended up nodding his head. So, 3 p.m. that afternoon, the mother and son arrived at Yijing Bar. The surprising thing was, these two women had actually selected a location right opposite his management agency. Luo Sheng felt like an outcast, but the thought of how his group members ridiculed him and attacked him made him speed up his step. Waiting for him was Long Ji and Lin Qian, just the two of them. Are you scammers? Luo Sheng had no patience and did not hold much hope in this unheard of agency. However, Long Ji removed her sunglasses and tapped on the table as she said, I am Long Man. You can call me Long Ji. I don't know you. You don't need to know me. Long Ji pulled out a check and placed it on the table. We are now giving you a chance to walk over to your management agency and cancel your contract. This is your entire compensation amount. You can throw it in their face. Luo Sheng looked at the check in surprise as his heart raced. What do you want? We simply want to sign you with us. Long Ji smiled. But, I can't go into detail at the moment. So, you only have 2 options: give up this opportunity and leave, or take this check, cancel your current contract and sign with us. Luo Sheng furrowed his brows, obviously hesitant. He would be lying if he was to say that he didn't hate his management agency. But, he had honestly never heard of Superstar Media. Long Ji knew he was hesitant, but she had no intention of giving him any more information. If this man didn't have enough faith and trust, there was no point signing him on. Make your decision. Luo Sheng held onto his mother's hand as his palms filled with sweat. Obviously, Mother Luo was a risk taker. No matter how pitiful they were simply declaring war against the animals across the road. So, she looked at Luo Sheng confidently. Luo Sheng was a little surprised, but he ended up picking up the check and walking across the road with his chest held high and his mother by his side. A broken bar. Hey, it's Luo Sheng, who we haven't seen in a few days. Luo Sheng, have you thought it over and decided to spend a night with me? Luo Sheng, what are you doing here? After entering the agency, Luo Sheng suffered all forms of humiliation and insults, but it didn't matter. Luo Sheng, we've already started recording our second album. Are you here to congratulate us? The group members of SMY cackled. Chapter 818, Don't Provoke Me. It's a shame to not have you around. Do you know how badly I want you to return to the group? That way we could have someone to mess around with. Ha ha. Luo Sheng remained silent, but he was not flustered. He grabbed onto the young man's collar and yelled, Don't provoke me. Everyone was frightened by his outburst, including the member that had just insulted him. Although someone still wanted to cause trouble for him, they were completely intimidated by the look in his eyes. It was the kind of look that threatened to chop someone if they dared to say another word. It was a look that showed he wasn't afraid of anything. Hey, it's Luo Sheng. After not seeing you for a few days, you seem to have changed a bit. At this moment, the manager of SMY appeared in front of everyone. Seeing Luo Sheng's powerful appearance, she couldn't help but feel attracted by his good looks. He was indeed good looking. Unfortunately, He wasn't well behaved. I came to cancel my contract, Luo Xing said to his manager. Cancel your contract? Hearing this, everyone began to laugh. Ha ha ha, I didn't hear wrong, did I? You want to cancel your contract? Have you prepared $30 million in compensation? You weren't planning to negotiate using your muscles, were you? Everyone looked at Luo Xing with humiliation. Wasn't he just the son of a small business owner? Even if he ran a small store for 10 lifetimes, he wouldn't be able to pull out $30 million. At this time, Luo Xing looked at everyone and pulled out a check. I want to cancel my contract right now. The manager looked at the check and her expression changed. Have you found some financial support? Any form of support is better than selling myself to you, Luo Xing declared loudly. Do you want the $30 million or not? If you don't want it, then I'm leaving. After offending a big boss, Luo Xing was bound to be banned for life from the industry. They had already spent a huge fortune to create him. If she managed to recover a bit from Luo Xing, she would be smiling even in her sleep. How could she give up on this opportunity? Okay, let's cancel our contract now. The manager was a bit reluctant. She felt that anyone that signed with her was an idiot. $30 million. Luo Xing wasn't worth this amount of money. But, with this money, she could train even more people. It was definitely better than holding onto a useless piece of trash. After half an hour, the manager followed procedures and signed a contract cancellation agreement with Luo Xing. From that moment onward, Luo Xing was free. After signing the agreement, Luo Xing stood up to leave. But, his ex-manager called him back. I originally thought, with your stubbornness, you would never become anything. I never thought that this would happen. Luo Xing, you need to understand the consequences of leaving this agency. You better be prepared to handle it. I will make you look at me in a different light. After speaking, Luo Xing turned around and left the inhumane agency, the agency that made him feel completely disgusted. Mother Luo witnessed the entire process. At this moment, she even felt that no matter what Long Ji had planned, the fact that she allowed her son to get justice, already proved that she was a good person. Afterwards, the mother and son returned to the bar across the road. Long Ji noticed the abnormal heaving of Luo Xing's chest. His emotions were still unsteady. You are now completely unrelated to the agency across the road. So now, you are going to sign a contract with us. Luo Xing looked at Long Ji without an ounce of hesitation and wrote down his name. Let's pretend that I borrowed the $30 million from you. I am willing to do anything in return. Long Ji glanced at the young man and scanned him from head to toe. In the end, she simply said, you said it. The first thing we are doing right now, is changing your image. Congratulations, you have been reborn. Afterwards, Luo Xing was dragged to a styling studio and was given a new look. There's no need to lose any weight. Just maintain your current figure. Wear more black clothes. We will help you prepare that from now on. Luo Xing was completely dumbfounded. Even after Long Ji escorted him home, he still did not know how to react. Come report to the agency tomorrow. Remember to look through your contract in detail. After speaking, Long Ji returned home to take care of her daughter, while Lin Qian went to hide Regency. Son, if they told you to look through the contract, then you should look through it. Mother Luo reminded. Luo Xing was in no rush because he didn't have his hopes up. But, after he returned home and saw on the contract that the legal representative was Tang Ning, he suddenly froze in shock before he jumped excitedly out of bed. Was this Tang Ning, the wife of Hairu's CEO, and Long Man? Luo Xing immediately went online to do some research. This was when he realized that Tang Ning's manager during her time as a model and Tanny was called Long Man. Could it be? Luo Xing pinched himself on the thigh and felt the sharp pain as he held onto the contract. He wasn't dreaming. This was completely real. He had signed a contract with Tang Ning, but Tang Ning was recently implicated by Zhu Zhen's death and was being suppressed by the industry. How was she to help him? That night, Luo Xing thought long and hard. But, regardless of everything else, he had already signed the contract and this was a great opportunity for him. However, he currently had nothing. How was Tang Ning going to help him get famous? I'm guessing the rascal has discovered that you are the owner of Superstar Media. Long Ji laughed over the phone. This is honestly exciting. Tang Ning, I suddenly feel like we've gone back a few years to when we were filled with fighting power. That's enough laughing. Luoxing must be doubting us right now. We need to help him make a comeback. I'll listen to your arrangements. Tang Ning hung up the phone. As she held on to Gogo, she leaned into Mo Ting's embrace and kissed Tang Tang on the forehead. Seeing this, Mo Ting couldn't help but suggest, why don't we help the two rascals change their nicknames? I don't want them to hate their mother when they grow older. Doesn't Tango, Candy, sound nice? Tang Ning asked. It's not manly at all. Mo Ting laughed. Tang Ning thought for a moment and replied, but, everyone's already gotten used to it. Plus, I really can't think of any names. It's not that difficult. We should just call them Zygon and Zixi. After hearing this, Tang Ning nodded her head. Fine. Since Mr. Mo thinks it's time for a change, then let's call them by their real names. I want these two rascals to protect their mother when they grow old. I don't want them to sniff and cry alongside their mother like wimps, Mo Ting said dotingly. After having the two rascals, Mo Ting's stiff expression began to subconsciously soften. But, Tang Ning was aware that that was only on the surface. A sleeping lion was sleeping, but it was still the invincible king. Chapter 819, You Want to Battle Me on Your Own? The next day, Luoxing arrived at the agency. The hidden workspace took up half a floor inside a building that was situated right in the heart of the city. Of course, Tang Ning was not around. This was not the kind of place that she would show up in even if she opened it under her name. Luoxing inspected the space and discovered that it was no different to any other management agency and had everything that was required. From the looks of it, Tang Ning was being serious. For the time being, Long Ji's main focus in the agency was to manage Luoxing's initial jobs. You don't look like you're used to it here. Long Ji stood up from her seat, walked over to the sofa and sat opposite Luoxing. Just a little. You are now our artist. So, the first thing you need to do is to broaden your mind. Do you really think that you are only worth $30 million? Long Ji asked. Since you've signed with us, you will need to attend the activities we have planned for you. Don't think that your competitors are the members of SMY. Their short-sightedness means that they are destined to not go very far. In that case, who is my competitor? Yourself, Long Ji said before she placed a script in front of him. Have a look at this script. After looking through this extremely foreign object, Luoxing furrowed his brows. I can't act, so there's no way I can portray a pretty boy. Partaking in an idol drama is the fastest way for you to gain popularity. You don't need acting skills, you just need to be yourself for this drama. I don't think you understand your current situation clearly. You have no choice, Long Ji said in seriousness. I know that you like to sing, but tell me, after debuting for so long, apart from creating a bit of gossip and appearing on a few small stages, what other achievements have you made? There are too many people that are capable of singing these days. Even a farmer or a simple cleaner, with a bit of packaging, can make it on the stage. Even being in a group can't guarantee fame, so how could you compete on your own? Luoxing wasn't completely convinced, but he still ended up taking the script with him. As Tang Ning expected, Luoxing rejected their arrangements. But, after filming the drama, she knew he would definitely regret the complaints he made today. It wasn't easy for Long Ji to secure this script. Luckily, she knew how the industry worked and quickly built up her network of contacts. Of course, this was all because Tang Ning was willing to invest everything into the agency. This was a necessary step that they had to take. They had no other choice. After being homebound for 1 month, Long Ji quickly returned to work and Lu Che was also busy with his work. Although the couple were quite tired, their trust for each other increased. As for their daughter, they found a trustworthy nanny to take care of her. To prevent the nanny from mistreating her daughter, like many nannies were accused of doing, she installed a few cameras in the house. After monitoring the nanny for a while, she discovered that she was a committed nanny that treated their daughter like her own child. Hence, Long Ji and Lu Che were relieved. Of course, Luoxing was unhappy with the arrangements that Long Ji had made. SMY was a band, yet he had now turned to acting. By the time he got famous, SMY would perhaps already be at the top of their game. Seeing her son sitting unhappily at home, Mother Luo asked for the cause. Luoxing explained what Long Ji had arranged for him with doubt and confusion. Mom, I still don't see a light at the end of the tunnel. Are you crazy? Mother Luo whacked her son on the back of his head. Director Long's words make complete sense. How long have you been working with music? After being in a group for 1 year, what have you gained? You are still unknown. Television, on the other hand, is different. If you partake in a television drama, I will be able to see you on the television. The entire nation will be able to see you. That's already halfway to success. When you were a singer and I mentioned SMY, no one knew who they were. But, this will be an idol drama. Even I've been watching a Thai idol drama lately. What woman, young or old, doesn't like to see a handsome face? Most importantly, the reason why Director Long has arranged for you to act instead of sing, is so that you don't attract the attention of your previous agency. That way, you would have less obstacles. She's taken everything into consideration for you, yet you are complaining. You sure don't know how to recognize kindness. After hearing this, Luo Xing finally woke up and realized how short-sighted he was. After remaining silent for a while, he said firmly to his mother, I definitely won't disappoint you. Luo Xing was young, so it wasn't wrong to categorize him as an idol. Plus, he was good-looking and fit the mold of what young women wanted in a partner. So, partaking in an idol drama would definitely attract a positive response. Plus, not all idol dramas were ridiculous. Plenty also became classics. So, Luo Xing soon reported to the set with his script. Originally, he thought that the cast and crew would point and judge him or focus too much on his appearance. But, that was actually dependent on the director. And director Lin, who was famous for filming idol dramas, was well known for treating young actors really well. He was an extremely talented director and was a flexible person. Luo Xing, idol dramas are a stepping off point for newcomers, so there's no need to be nervous. I think that the character that Long Man has chosen for you suits you very much. The male and female leads were also newcomers. Although they both had a little bit of experience in acting, no one had the right to look down on anyone else. Since they were all on the same level, they quickly got along well and cooperated with each other. With the added bonus that Long Ji would visit every now and then to deliver treats to the cast and crew, Luo Xing's life on set was no longer full of darkness and schemes like he had experienced in the past. However, every now and then, someone would still question which agency he came from. In response, he would smile and reply, Superstar Media. Although no one had heard of this name before, he had faith that it would soon resound across the entire entertainment industry. Idol dramas were generally short and ended at about 20 episodes. So, the drama they were filming, At the Devil's Out, Be Careful, was completed at 18 episodes. However, after this experience, Luo Xing found that his image of idol dramas had changed. After all, a good storyline wasn't exclusive to normal dramas, and the beauty of youth also created a great story. Soon, the drama settled on a television channel and broadcast time. So, the time to witness the results had arrived. Chapter 820, Either the best result, or the worst. Over 3 months passed. By now, the two rascals could already move around on their own. So, whenever Tangning took care of the kids, she barely got the chance to stand up straight. Zykan was cheeky and Zixi always followed behind his older brother. The two rascals crawled around the floor, taking turns chasing each other. Tangning held her camera in one hand and held some snacks in the other. Her days passed with genuine joy. I can tell that you are enjoying your current lifestyle, Longji admired. You're not filming anything, you don't have anything scheduled, and you are completely out of the public eye. But you have still cast a net on the entertainment industry. Yes, I'm enjoying it. How's Luo Xing doing? Tangning examined her camera as she asked Longji. His drama is about to start broadcasting. From the looks of it, there are no major problems, Longji replied. I don't want any assumptions. Tangning lifted her head and looked at Longji. Sometimes, you only need to do something simple to get a guaranteed result. I'll do as you say, boss. Longji admitted that her brain wasn't as useful as Tangning's, so she listened willingly to Tangning's instructions. It's time to make SMY pay back for what they've done to Luo Xing. We should take the stepping stones when we get the opportunity, Tangning hinted. After hearing this, Longji gestured that she understood. However, putting SMY to use, required skills. They couldn't slander the entire group at once and play the sympathy card for Luosheng. The audience was already sick of old plots like that. If they could make it seem like Luosheng never felt threatened and never tried to seek revenge, he would instead appear very open-minded. Because of this matter, Luosheng was quite nervous for a few nights. After all, his drama was about to broadcast and it was appearing on a big channel. Either way, it was an idol drama filmed by a famous director. Even if he didn't become famous, he would at least exist in the eyes of the public. So it wasn't that big of an issue for him. However, this was simply what he thought. Tongning, on the other hand, never settled for second best. They either got the worst result, or the best. So, at this important moment, a certain boy group from a certain agency was exposed as having messy personal lives. It was SMY, and it was revealed that one of the members had a one-night stand with a male higher-up. A one-night stand with a male higher-up. Indecent incidences like this weren't uncommon within the industry. The main issue was the fact that it involved a boy group and a male higher-up. Homosexual incidences were bound to attract attention. It also meant that SMY would become famous, but due to bad publicity, extremely bad publicity. Seeing this piece of news, Luosheng began to worry that he'd be implicated. So, he immediately gave Longji a phone call. He was traumatized by the previous times that he had been framed. "Calm down, you don't need to worry," Longji comforted. The internet was filled with scolding targeted at the other three members because Luosheng's name and photo had long been removed from all publications related to the boy group. Hence, Luosheng was not affected. Seeing that his previous members were scolded so badly, Luosheng broke out in a cold sweat. They were all young. It must be hard for them to handle the scolding. At this time, an old photo containing all four members was revealed. A lot of people wondered why Luosheng had disappeared from the group. After all, they weren't that famous, so any disagreements were never revealed. At this time, some information was leaked from the industry. This young man refused to partake in underhanded dealings, so the company cast him aside and didn't give him any jobs. It lasted for about half a year, but apparently, he cancelled his contract a few months ago. Good on him. The young man has integrity. The incident has been causing a stir for a while, but the young man hasn't stepped out to add to the insult. It's obvious that he is quite a gentleman. Has anyone noticed that he is really good looking? All of a sudden, SMY's reputation was blackened like ash. However, Luosheng was praised as having integrity and for remaining a gentleman. Most importantly, his appearance attracted a large amount of attention. What is Luosheng doing these days? What a shame. Does anyone know if he is working on any projects? I can't find anything online. What a disappointment. I really hope that he escapes this rubbish company and finds a good alternative. The average person would think that this was the perfect opportunity to announce Luosheng's involvement in an idol drama. In fact, even Luosheng mentioned this to Longji, but Longji shook her head. "Do you believe in us?" Luosheng was silent for a few moments before he finally nodded his head. After receiving Luosheng's trust, Longji began to explain, "If you advertise yourself at this time, the public would think that you deliberately planned this entire incident to create publicity for your drama. If this happens, then everything we've done in the past would go to waste. Since you're cutting all ties to SMY, you should make it a clean cut. Understand?" Luosheng nodded. "I'm just afraid that my popularity will fade." Longji shook her head. "Before this incident gets forgotten, the public will continue to search for your name. Eventually, someone will naturally discover your drama. The more you appear indifferent, the more people will take notice of you. So, keeping a low profile matches the expectations that the public have for you. Plus, if you were to announce your plans at this time, you would be telling your ex-manager that you are making a comeback. Won't they grab onto this opportunity to throw all the bad publicity on you? The purpose of your existence isn't to argue with them. Do you understand?" After listening to Longji, Luosheng was completely convinced by her. "From now on, I won't question your decisions. I trust your arrangements. There's no point trusting me. You need to trust the person behind me." Longji winked. Luosheng understood that Longji was referring to Tongning, so he smiled and nodded his head. "Ayo." Little Luo was finally smiling. "This is a rare sight," Longji teased. As expected, The incident continued to spread for a few more days and the public continued to search Luo Xing's name. However, he remained secretive by not making an appearance and kept a low profile by not voicing his opinion as he waited for his drama to broadcast. The most important thing for him to do was to deal SMY a lethal blow. The entertainment industry was deep, but after working together for a while, Luo Xing discovered that Long Ji wasn't as frightening as he thought. The truly frightening person was the one that signed a contract with him. Tangning. During this time, the members of SMY were forced to cease all activities due to their indecent incident. Of course, they also realized that Luo Xing was the only one that received applause amongst the 4 original members. Luckily Luo Xing isn't in the entertainment industry anymore. If he was to tread on top of us, how annoying would that be? Him, in his current state, we were at least famous for a few days. He can't even be famous for a half a day.
Hit the like, thumbs up button and subscribe to my channel. Thank you for listening.